Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of the Mental Toughness and Body Show. Today we are going to talk about strategic thinking and problem solving. I love this because in a world that is constantly changing, and we've never probably lived at a time when there has been more resources that we can access faster or more abundantly any time in history. And yet I come across more and more people every day that are just creating problems rather than solving them. But my guest today is going to teach us how to become master strategists and incredible problem solvings and how he goes about it through his sales and marketing business. Now, on this podcast, we've interviewed people from all walks of life, from your A-list celebrities, billionaires to Olympic gold medalists. And today we have Brendan Lee. Brendan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Rob. Really excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to our conversation. So perhaps tell us, because you've got a sales and marketing business, but what you do is do it a little bit differently. Now, every single day, including today, already my inbox has been hit, whether it be email, whether it be WhatsApp or LinkedIn or Instagram by people that, hey, I can promote your podcast. Hey, I can do this for your website. Hey, I can do this SEO, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
And so what I like about your approach is you just do it a little bit differently. So tell us what your business name is, how you go about, I suppose, just your point of difference from.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I started the business almost 13 years ago now, and back then, digital was not even a thought. And so, when I named the business, which is B Digital Group, I guess at the time it was innovative, and now it sort of seems a little bit ho-hum, and every other business has a similar name. But at the time, the philosophy, which hasn't really changed, was how do we land on the right tools? For people to actually affect change, whether you're a large, so I've come from sort of large corporate, but I actually enjoy working a lot more with sort of smaller businesses because they're more agile. You can see the effects a lot quicker if you're doing it correctly. And that's sort of when you talk about being a problem solver. So, I guess one of the biggest things for me is how do you, as a business, quickly identify and I guess define a problem rather than just jumping to a solution. You said it in your intro. There's so many tools out there. There's so many people offering you packages and solutions, and some are cheap and some are expensive and etc. But at the end of the day, if you just rush to a solution and you haven't really defined what it is you're trying to solve or what you're trying to achieve, it's all bad value. It's all waste of money.
Yeah, that's right. So I guess what I've personally seen in my own business, and you know what? Yeah, this is the joy of doing a live podcast recording. You think you've shut everything down that's not going to ping. I don't know whether you can hear that, but it's annoying. I'm not going to try and do something else to stop it now. But um, certainly over the last 12 months, even though AI has been around for I don't know how long, but it's probably never been more accessible than it is right now. And it's almost like, I guess, um, back when the internet first started, it's like, okay, I don't know how I'm going to use this, but it's there and let's start playing. And then it's obviously taken off. But AI, I think, is like that on steroids and going absolutely bananas.
Mhm.
And I guess this is like I did refer to before about we've never existed in a time when we had access to something that's just like, just tell me how to do this and bang it tells you how to do it.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
guess what I'm wondering with that, are you
Mm.
seeing more and more like small businesses, medium, large size businesses that are just, they don't know what to do with it. They don't know how to get the most value out of it. And also, why do I need you? Because I've got this over here.
Yeah. I've what I believe are people who, quote unquote, I guess, don't know what to do with it. But they definitely fall into two buckets. There's people who have just run off and are just doing the doing. And I would still define them as, I guess, they don't know how to use it because they're probably not using it effectively. They're just sort
Mm.
of ticking off a bucket list of things. Oh, I was told to create content, so I made ChatGPT make me some content, and off it went. And then you've got the other bucket where people are just paralyzed. As you said, there's so much power, there's so much choice all of a sudden, and people are just like, I don't know where to start. I don't know what's right for me. And so when you ask the question, I guess, where does a business like mine fit in? The irony is in this day and age, we started around digital evolution. we've almost come around full circle where I still work almost not exclusively, but we still work heavily in digital solutions. But what I say to clients all the time is the irony is that the effectiveness of a digital solution will be how do you actually bring it back to a human? Because at the end of the day, all of it, clicking on a website, filling out a Facebook form, whatever it is you're asking somebody to do, there's still a human on the other end of it. And I think the quicker people realize that and bring it back to that in their planning stages, the more effective their tools will be, rather than just letting the tools dictate, what it is that they're trying to do.
Are there a couple of tips that you could give people? Because I find that with AI, yeah,
Mm.
it's great, but it's only as good as the questions that you ask. What color is the sky? Well, the sky can be blue, it
Yes.
can be red, it can be whatever. And so, oh, okay, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
But if you ask a different questions like, oh, what causes the sky to be blue, then that's a very different scientific type answer,
Mm.
right? Just like write me some content. Well, okay, sure, but what about? What's the objective of the content, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So people that are perhaps a little bit scared of it or even using it, what would be maybe a couple of tips that you could suggest for people to strategically use AI?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things I remember my dad always saying to me growing up, and I probably hated it because he was using it in a negative connotation with me, but he would say, "You got two ears and one mouth, Brendan. So make sure you're asking questions and listening a lot more than you're talking." I think AI is the same. Like, use it to ask yourself questions, to reflect and plan twice as much as you actually use it to do. Maybe one of the analogies is like it's like getting in a really powerful car. But if you haven't actually figured out where you want to go yet, then you're just going to go really fast in a random direction. You might get where you want to go, but it'll work out a lot better if you probably plan where you want to go first and use the car accordingly.
Yeah, that's a really good analogy. The way I use it every single day, multiple times. The way I've started to use it over the last probably 6 weeks now is I journal with it at night. I always do it at night time. It's kind of
Yes.
my wind down sequence. And people think, oh, well, what's the point in that? Well, it's not the type of journal that I write in a notebook and keep it forever, sort of thing. It's like I open a thread and I will just effectively download what's happening in the moment or a summary of the day kind of thing and
Mm,
what that means to me. Like
mm,
whether it's great and there's some reflections in that. I mean, you're a successful business owner, you know what this is like. You get some success. Oh, fantastic. All right, now what?
mm,
You're moving on to that next thing. And so there's a little bit of that, but there's all we I've focused on some of those things that I ask people, what keeps you awake at night?
mm,
And it's analyzing those things, and then you effectively get in a conversation with it and say, "Oh, this is how I'm feeling," and then it explores, and then you say, "I'd like to dig a little bit deeper," or it says something, and you're like, "No, I'm not feeling that. I want to be more angry, or I want to be more this, and whatever." Yeah, and then it says, "Would you like some strategies to deal with your anger?" Right? That's not a real one
yep.
for me, but would you like some strategies for probably my biggest one is I just constantly work. So like,
Mm,
would you like some strategies to help you calm or to
mm,
feel at peace with certain things and stuff? And I find that it's a really, really cool device because again, for me, that's about my strategy and how I
mm.
manage myself, and that then goes on into the next day to have an impact on my business.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I'm doing a lot more talking to it, so asking the questions,
Yep.
like you just indicated there, as opposed to just give me some content.
Yeah, yeah. I love that because I do almost exactly the same thing. Like I just find what I do love about the advancements of technology is that you can be more efficient. And so for me, I can talk to it when I'm in the car. We can it can be a voice dialogue. I don't have to be typing into a tool like ChatGPT all the time, for instance.
Mm,
I think maybe this is something most people don't appreciate is that for a large language learning model like say ChatGPT, there's obviously other alternatives out there, but it's got so much knowledge. It would be like if you had a question and you just walked into a room full of people and just yelled out your question and just said, "Give me all the answers that are coming out of this
yeah.
room." Where you're actually going to get your best effect is by you can actually create. specific GPTs to ask specific questions. So, something that I'm seeing of what you're doing, and this was a conversation we've had earlier actually about creating better balance in life. If I
Mm,
created a GPT that understood the balance that I was aiming for, or maybe where I was lacking, then it would have that context when I start to download my day. And it would, so for
yes,
instance, if I said, "Hey, I'm actually really struggling with my health at the moment," and it would say, "Oh, well, what did you eat today?" Or, "Did you go to the gym? I'm noticing you're angry. Have you had a run today?" Or whatever it is.
yes.
Yeah, having all of that additional context and I guess putting the not the guardrails, but putting the direction into what you're asking for is actually the key to getting great content.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, like it's just it's so so powerful. I just really I really love it. With say the I mean we're bombarded with so many different marketing messages like constantly. What don't know. They used to
Mm,
say like it was hundreds. I know now, like last I heard it was like 3,000 or something messages a day that we get bombarded with, and the
mm.
amount of we're just programmed to do this now and or to
Yes.
some or whatever. Not really pay any particular attention to what it is. People are looking more for entertainment rather than your traditional ads. And like, I don't really watch TV at all.
Mm,
I don't really scroll that much through social media because like I'm on a mission to do my own thing and stuff. But what would you say is perhaps the biggest problem in sales and marketing right now? What is
mm,
I get the feeling that we are lowering our standards as a society, certainly here in Australia anyway. Like the language that people are using is, if we've started at the Queen's English or King's English, and now we just seem to be getting worse and worse. There's so much more swearing and
mm.
just lowering of standards, and I just think people are looking for I'm seeing a lot of like marketing stuff which is just shock value or people risking
Yeah.
their lives to do things and that
Yep.
kind of stuff. And I just people are looking at that for entertainment. I don't know whether it really works.
Yep.
Like where I spend most of my time, health and fitness and so forth. I'm not I'm not a Liam or Chris Hemsworth, 6 foot, good looking guy, ripped, that kind of thing. So I'm not going to get eyes on me for that. I focus on my content and the value that I can provide to people. But there's the young girl that's doing squats in a thong on the beach is getting they're not buying necessarily, but it's getting a lot of eyeballs on it.
Yep.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
Where do you see the biggest problem with sales and marketing? How do we fix that?
Yeah. Yeah, look, you've touched on such a you're really pushing a button for me. So I make it a point not to talk about politics in public because I just think it's gonna start a fire. But it to me, if I just think about sort of global politics at the moment, it's a bit of an indictment on what you just mentioned on social media, which is it's almost just become this race to the bottom. How do I just grab your attention? Headlines, no substance, no information. I
And a
think
lot of hate.
Yes, sadly, and a lot of fear. So, ironically, one of the things that we do when we're working through some of our strategy session is that you do realistically, there is a caveman instinctual part of somebody's brain that you need to trigger in order to get their attention. And the easiest way to do that is fear and hate.
Shock.
But I just think that's lazy and it might sort of work at the start of your messaging, but it might just not be congruent. And you just mentioned it. Like if you all of a sudden want to start talking about positivity and content and being technical about health and technique, it doesn't work if you start by going, "Hey, like here's a girl in a thong." Like, do you know what I mean? Like it sort of becomes
Yeah.
incongruent. So you might get that first bit of attention, but it won't pass through the way you want it to, and it won't progress the
Yes.
way you want it to. So for me, what I'm saying to clients a lot is the way to combat this is to be a lot more strategic and targeted about the metrics that you want and not just chasing, I guess, what I would call vanity metrics. The
Yeah.
girl doing squats in her thong on the beach is going to have amazing numbers, but oh, great, you got 50,000 likes, but how many of them are actually
Yeah.
what you
None of them are
want
going to
the
be
customer?
customers. Yeah.
Correct. I'd
Yeah.
rather have, well, 5 likes from 5 customers, potential customers.
Yeah. That's right.
So it all comes, but I think it's just about having that back to the other conversation. If you're reflective, it helps you pull that back or not get lost in some of the sort of fascinations of these big sexy perhaps sort of numbers and metrics and actually pull back and go, well, what is my strategy and am I sticking to that?
Is there a problem when you start working with people? I know people get emotional about their ideas,
Yeah.
and people can have really bad ideas. They say, no, 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 we're going to do this and going to do that. And do you find that one of the problems is that they're not thinking, they're thinking about their idea, but they're not thinking about, okay, what's in it for the customer? What's the
Oh,
end result for the
yeah.
customer? Because you're thinking, okay, I don't know, I don't know how we got onto the thong and the squat, but
We're on it
you
now,
know,
too late.
that's what we think we want. We want to do that
Yeah.
because that's going to be awesome, and we've got this model and all that kind of stuff. But it's like, okay, so who's your target market?
Mm,
What are you trying to achieve for them, and how relevant is this? That's
yeah.
like you have the girl doing that, but then it's like, hey, we're selling a soft drink or something like they
Yeah.
used to do in the old days with Coke and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That was more a lifestyle type of thing, wasn't it? So
Yeah.
is that a fundamental problem with people that you're working with? It's like, man, that idea you have not considered, which is,
Yeah.
I guess, part of the strategy, but also the like you're not focusing on the problem you're trying to solve here for the other person. You're just thinking about you.
Yeah, it's a symptom of even where we started this conversation because to me that behavior is the same as somebody who would come up to me and just say, "Hey, Brendan, I just bought this new piece of AI software and I think it can run all my Google ads for me." You're sort of just jumping to the solution and you haven't even stopped to think, what is the actual problem I'm trying to
Right.
solve?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's no different if you just come to me and say, I've got this great ad idea. It's like, great. We haven't even discussed who you're trying to target or what you're trying to sell them and what's going to trigger them. A lot of the time, I joke about this a lot, but so my wife is in finance, absolutely doesn't understand marketing a bit. And one of the things she says to me all the time is she goes, Brendan, you're in marketing, you're creative, you should handle this. The irony is I would say I'm actually not creative. I'm so strategic minded and so process driven that I make sure that the creation of the content that comes out is, creative, but it is more importantly in line with what it is that we're trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So by doing those things, I guess by putting that I guess roadmap or by having that clearly outlined for a customer, I think it helps to either align or show the misalignment in some of these ideas. That's why it's really critically important to do that planning.
So would you say that that is your strength?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I'm never the type to just run off and quote unquote do as I'm told. I'm sure back to my wife, I'm sure she doesn't like that, but I'll turn around and try to figure out why. I've sort of it was one of the former CEOs of Toyota, but he had this rule of five whys, and I tend to sort of I don't. It's not a rule, but I find myself inherently doing it, just asking a depth of why questions before running off to do something. So,
Mm.
not different ones, but asking why within that same strain of thought. And sometimes that's when you actually hit on the real problem that you're trying to solve.
Yeah, got you. So where you are in your business growth and personal growth right now, what would you say is important to you right now?
Yeah, I think what's important, what I've realized in my own life, and I guess I don't know whether you want to call it late in life, whatever age you want it to be, but I am a very different person to what I was 10 years ago in terms of how I see life and how I see contentment. And for me, what I'm looking for in the business is something that's sustainable and fulfilling. I often say to people, if I won the lottery, and I wouldn't retire. I'd keep doing what I'm doing. I would just pick and choose my clients maybe a bit differently, do a bit more philanthropically, that type of thing. But I enjoy the work as long as, I've got that strong relationship with the people that I'm working with, both within my team and obviously with clients. So yeah, what I'm looking for is something that is sustainable both in the enjoyment side of things, but also sustainable. I guess it has to work out financially as well. So if I'm working for clients, I always say to them, we need to. I'm not just here to run marketing or run ads for you. I'm here to find a way that these ads or marketing campaigns will make your business money. And if we can't figure that out, then this is a march to the end of, this is the march to us breaking up at some point anyway. So we've got to, that's sort of my philosophy, is to just find businesses that are open to the way that I approach things, but also ready and willing to, I guess, adjust to what needs to happen if they're going to undertake digital marketing.
You mentioned that it's changed from say 10 years ago. What I know children
Yeah.
changes things, but what are the things that have changed for you to be?
Yeah, I think it's funny that, like, I know life situations might change, I guess, circumstantially how you look at things, but I'm really pleased, and it's nothing I outwardly did. I guess it's just the journey of life, but I'm really pleased with my perspective on life now, and that's probably changed things more. I was definitely, as a younger male, I just was quite driven. I think my personality type was also just very task driven as well. So it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna tick this off, get married, have a kid, buy a house, da da da.
Yeah.
Um, but I almost did it with reckless abandon, with no consideration of who else was along the journey with me, not considering, I guess the long-term effects of some of my actions, um, and also not even considering if what I was going for was actually going to bring me that contentment that I wanted. It was that natural, if I chase money, I'll be happy. Well, will you? Like, have you asked yourself if that's true or not? Or if I have this fancy car, will I be happy? So I think where I approach just my whole life as well as business now is far more about balance. Like, I find, or my experience has been, if I don't find balance in all the facets of my life, then it's all just waiting to fall apart. Like, and this is one of the reasons I really was so excited to talk to you, was health was one of those. I know you mentioned to me this philosophy of, like, if you can put health at the forefront or the center of it,
Yeah.
it'll drive everything else. And I've never been more crystal clear of that at this stage in my life.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. I think that that is a real gift. I mean, me personally, same. I've never been more focused, had more clarity. I know I'm a lot older than you, but I think part of it's life experiences. Part of it is, yeah, losing my daughter in 2023 as well. It just changes you as a person,
Mm.
and I think, yeah, it's just one of those things that has just happened for me, but it also relates to this next question because for me, it's because I'm so focused on growing as a person every single day. One as a human, but two as a like a better business person, learning new skills and getting coaching constantly and that kind of stuff. So I'm just interested from your perspective as to what's your process and your focus on your own personal development.
Mm, mm. Coaching is an interesting one for the relationship I've had, I guess, in the past. I think I just had this sour connotation of even the terminology. Again, if you asked 10 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, and I never undertook, the benefits of any coaching in my life. And now I'm almost a full 180. I think my my attitude used to be, if somebody isn't, like, you use the example of Chris Hemsworth before, but it's almost like, well, if I want to be Chris Hemsworth and Rob's not Chris Hemsworth, then how can he help me?
Mm.
Whereas the irony is I grew up playing basketball, competition, high competition basketball, and then I sort of progressed straight into coaching when I sort of was a little bit older. And the irony is I was definitely coaching players who were much better than me, but I know that I was helping them be better, but I didn't have that perspective on what a coach could do for business, for personal health,
Yes.
all that sort of stuff. So that's been a huge revelation for me, and I have a much stronger network, of coaches that I lean on now, in different facets of my life to help me keep that balance. And by no means, have I found the perfect balance, or found exactly where I want it to be, but I know that, for without a shadow of a doubt, I need that level of support to get where I want to go.
Yeah, awesome. I do believe we're constant works in progress, though. And I think when you're on a success journey, it to me, it doesn't matter how much success I've had. Like I said before about the celebration, well, I celebrate for a moment. Like I got an award last night, Australia Day Award.
Saw
And
that. Congratulations.
yeah, thank you, which was a tremendous honor and what was
Mm,
unexpected. And it still hasn't really sunk in because I know it's huge for the work that I've been doing.
mm,
But again, it's not like I'm going to organize a function to celebrate and have everybody go, "Wow, look at you! This is amazing!" It's like, "Wow, that's amazing." I got some photos from the event. I got to, talk to some people at the event as well. It's like, what's next? And
mm,
that's how I focus on everything. So even if you set the goal here, if you achieve it or get close to it, I just keep moving it along. Sometimes it might be a lot higher, but it just keeps moving forward. And that's in health, that's in every area of my life. So it's like you never really get to the destination because when you're so driven, you just keep focusing on, all right, what's next? And it doesn't mean that you don't. I think this is a part of my journaling as well. And when you
mm,
do feel really crappy about certain things and aren't going your way, and making sure that you are being grateful for who you are and what you've done and all that kind of stuff. But I do think because of the nature of us always striving to be more successful, that you don't actually get there, which
mm,
I also think is exciting because if you knew, all right, Brendan, I've got some good news and some bad news. Congratulations on your success, but you've reached your
this
peak,
is the best.
buddy. You're going to stay here for a few years and then, dementia is going to kick in and, it's all downhill, mate.
Yeah.
Your kid's going to grow up hating you. You put all this time, money, effort into them, but this is the best. So, just enjoy the next, actually it's 123 days and it's on a bit of a down his slide. I mean, that's
Yeah.
horrible, right?
Yeah.
And yet so many people settle,
Mm,
but I love the fact that we have the opportunity to do whatever we want with the 24 hours, and I focus on growth and
yeah.
keep
Yeah.
growing.
I think as well, on that note, I was talking about contentment before. It's this almost sounds cliche when it comes into my head, so I'm tempted to not say it out of my mouth. But contentment, it comes from the actual journey, not the destination. Because, if I've stopped striving for something, like you said, I'm really just marching towards nothing, and nothingness. And, I think that's been a big revelation for me as well. Like I want to enjoy what it is that I'm working towards as much as when I get it. Because same as you, like if I finally get something, then it's got to be on to the next thing.
I think there's like the phases of life, like you said before about, where you're
Mm,
going in the car and all that. I'm not into cars or anything like that, but I think one of the things that we don't necessarily recognize until we're older is because we're born into a family we didn't ask for, and you can either be blessed with entrepreneurial parents or driven parents or whatever, or you can be born into homelessness or something like
mm,
that. So we have no say over that, but then it's up to us to determine who we spend the time with. And I
mm,
think it's taken me probably decades to realize that, yeah, I'm hanging out with the wrong types of people. And that's not to say I'm hanging out with gangsters or anything like that, but I realized that I was destined for something much greater than what most people want. And
mm,
you've got to know that those people are out there, but you have to go and find them. And in order to do that, you have to put yourself in the right room so that you're having the right conversations and so
mm,
forth. And now I was just talking to somebody last night actually about it's kind of like a pyramid, and the extra layers that you come up, you realize that there are fewer people at that level. And at the
mm,
top, there's not that many, like that
mm,
20% or whatever. There's only a few that
mm,
are up there. But to me, that's also where the power is in the personal growth by spending that time with those people. Is
mm.
that what you found as well?
Yeah, definitely to a degree. Like if you're striving for something, like being entrepreneurial, but if all of your friends work 9 to 5s, it becomes, you can't have that conversation with them about your struggles, and they just don't have the context to be able
Yeah.
to help. So, I just find you need to. I think as a younger person, you almost take your friends as they come. You're not that selective.
You're
And
not filtering them.
correct. But I think now it's almost the opposite where I'm not just filtering, but even seeking out like, what is it? that is missing? Where do I need this additional support? And
Yeah.
so that balance I talked about in life, I think that that comes in your friendship circle too. And it's what
Yeah, absolutely.
experiences they have. Maybe I've got some friends who are really, really different in terms of their life experience and what they do for work, even just sort of, what they have as goals in life. But there are some that I really appreciate and need in my life because they give me that different context or that different mirror that sort of keep me a little bit grounded, or even from a marketing standpoint, it helps me be more open-minded to understand different types of people and what they're striving for.
Yeah, yeah. Just a couple more questions. What would you say has been, so let's say in business,
Mm.
your biggest failure and what you learned from it? Let's go a bit dark for a moment.
Yeah, no, all good. And thankfully, I've bounced back, so we can talk about it from a happy place. But I still remember my very first boss. I worked selling watches for Casio. So most people's
Okay.
first watch was probably a Casio because you were excited.
Casio G-Shock.
Yeah, that was the moneymaker. But everyone had that dorky black one that you were excited you could take in the pool when you were maybe that's showing my age all of a sudden, but that's kind of most people's first watch. And
A lot of it, yeah.
but my boss there, we sold to all types of different businesses. Like the G-Shock stuff could be in a General Pants, or it could be in a David Jones, or it could be at a jewelry shop. So lots of different types of customers. And my boss always said to me, Brennan, make sure that our customer base is really diverse, because if you put all of your eggs in one basket, like I remember we're working on this massive deal with Big W. And I got this big deal over the line, and he just went, actually, we're not going to go with it, Bren, because if 60% of our business is going to come from Big W, we're just too beholden to them. It's too much of a risk if that goes away. So
Yeah,
I remember going, yeah, that makes sense. I get that. I was probably frustrated at the time we didn't take the deal, but um, that was a good piece of advice that I didn't take when I started my own business, because I sort of naturally, when I started my business, it was just take whatever you can get, take whatever interest you've got out
yeah.
there. And naturally, I ended up having 80% of my customer base in hospitality. And then, so, that funny little COVID thing.
COVID thing, yeah.
Yep.
Ripped the guts out of it.
Absolutely. So, it was punishing at the time, I guess, financially, but it actually was a great time to reset because I had started a business. I had just sort of let the current take me wherever it took me, and never sat down and said, actually, what do I want? Or what do I want it to be? Or what am I good at? Where is my point of difference? And
Yeah,
all these things that I do daily for clients, I had never done for my own business. And so, COVID, I guess, gave me the time to do that and forced me to do it, really. And yeah, it's been fantastic since then. And obviously a slog to build things back up. And I'm not going to say, it was one of those movies that wraps up neatly in 5 minutes. It was a few hard years coming out of COVID, with a very strict sort of direction that I wanted to head into. But I think I'm well on that path now, and really, really pleased it happened, quite frankly.
yeah, brilliant. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Ooh, it does. It probably changes. Like I love getting advice. So it's sort of, if you asked me today, it was probably something I heard 2 weeks ago versus something that
That's okay.
yeah. But I think the one that sticks with me, is like, this is something that I guess it's from a family upbringing standpoint, but my parents were always big on sort of saying, if you enjoy what it is that you're doing and you enjoy the people around you, it just shouldn't feel like work. And so I definitely prescribe to that. I don't, if somebody's going to join our team, it's much more important culturally how they fit and whether or not we're all going to have fun with each other,
Yeah,
because the skills you can learn, and even in our world, digital marketing specifically, it changes so quickly. Like you kind of need to constantly be upskilling yourself anyway.
yeah,
So I just didn't. It's not wise to hire on skill in my line of work.
yeah,
And yeah, I really love that bit of advice. It's always never steered me wrong.
yeah, brilliant. All right, so my last question is, if people want to get in touch with you, you'd mentioned before that you've got some free ways, which is great for people to
Mm.
get some more information, how they can improve their sales and marketing and so forth, and if they want to work with you. So how I'll put the links below, but just tell us how people can get in touch with you.
Yeah, so definitely on our website, it's bedigitalgroup.com is our website, and we've got a bunch of helpful tools on there. The main two that I think are helpful for a lot of small businesses in particular, one is we keep up to date a conversions benchmark tool, or a document, and what that is to help people understand what they should expect out of the activity that they're doing. So, some people are like, I'm going to send, I've got 2,000 people on an email. I'm hoping that 1,000 people buy this product that I'm promoting. And I'm like, whoa, your numbers are way out of whack. You know what I mean? Like you need to understand what the funnel is going to look like, how many people are likely to open, how many are likely to click, and then how many are likely to buy. So we like to keep that up to date, and we like to do it by industry as well.
Okay,
So
nice.
yeah,
That
so because
sounds
it,
cool.
it can be wildly different, obviously,
Yeah,
different industries. So that's a great one, particularly for small business owners if they're just planning or thinking about things early on. But the other thing is the biggest one is we've called it our profit pyramid. But essentially, when we're planning a campaign, we want to always think about it, I guess, in this three-edged triangle. And it's kind of cyclical, and that's how sort of the campaign improves. But it's just a planning document that helps outline maybe which parts of the strategy you have maybe not thought about properly or
yeah.
have sort of rushed ahead of. So that's a really handy one. It's just a little questionnaire, six-part questionnaire, and we sort of spit out some suggestions at the end of that. So those are two tools I think most people find helpful.
Fantastic. And then on the website, I assume there's a way to opt in to get in touch
Absolutely. Yeah,
and
I'm
say whether
more
they
than
want to
happy
work with
to.
you.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. My phone number will be there. My email will be there, and I'm always just curious. So I love talking to new people. I love finding out about their business and what they do, which is why we don't specialize in a particular industry because I just love finding out about different industries. So, whether you're a professional service or a personal trainer in health or you're a quick service restaurant, we work with everybody.
Fantastic. Well, this has been really insightful. Thank you for your openness in sharing what's going on in the space right now and what's important for you as well. I'm sure the audience will get some great value out of this. So thank you, Brendan, once again for joining us today on the show.
Thanks, Rob. Really, such a pleasure being on.